First, let me tell you a little about myself, my wife, and our situation before it ended. My name is Robert, Rob Price, and my wife was Alexander, Alex for short, never Sandy. I stand at 5 foot 10s and Alex at 5 feet 6 inches. I weigh about 190 pounds and stay in shape by running and spending a couple of hours at the gym twice a week. I have been told I am somewhat of a handsome guy by her friends. Alex weighs about 110 pounds and also goes to the gym. I have brown hair and blue eyes. Alex has blonde hair and brown eyes. Alex and I are both 34 years old. Alex looks more like 28, but I am told I look my age. To me, Alex is the most beautiful woman in the world, and my world revolves around her and our 2 children, Samantha 10 and Carl 8. I hold degrees in engineering and business management and work at a local company in our small town of less than 10,000 residents. Alex was a nurse at our local hospital. She had recently become a senior nurse, earning a good salary and no longer having to work shifts. I am in middle management and have been informed that when my boss retires, his job will be mine, so our future looks promising. We met at a party and immediately connected. We were intimate on our second date and married 6 months later. Alex mentioned she didn't want children just yet, as she wanted to travel and explore the world. Things didn't go as planned, and she became pregnant a few months later. Thea was born 8 months later, followed by Carl 2 years after that. We said traveling would have to wait until the kids went to college, but I could see Alex wasn't thrilled with the delay. To make up for it, I tried to book vacations abroad to give her a taste of what was to come. Throughout our marriage, we had the usual disagreements, often about finances. Alex said I wasn't earning enough and should look for a better paying job. I responded that my boss was due to retire soon, and I would be promoted, so money would no longer be an issue. The biggest argument we had was when she came home with a brand new BMW X3 she had financed. I was infuriated and asked how we could afford it. She said she had been promoted to head of the department, and since it was her money, she treated herself. I should have seen the signs, but I didn't. Hindsight is always clearer. We didn't speak for a week, and she said I had ruined the moment and kept her distant for a month. Eventually we reconciled and agreed to discuss any major purchases in the future. Life went on. As we approached our 11th anniversary, we had been arguing a lot recently, mainly about money, and why there wasn't more of it. I decided we needed to reconnect away from all the distractions at home, so I booked us a 2-week holiday in the Bahamas. I sold one of the rare stamps from my dad's collection, which he left me when he passed away. I had no idea of their value, so I sent them for appraisal while we were away. When I told Alex about our vacation, she was thrilled and began buying a new wardrobe for our trip. I still don't know where she found the money, as she has her own account. On the day we left, we dropped the kids off at her parents' house and drove to the airport, parking in the long-term lot. During the flight, she held my hand and told me how much she loved me, and I was going to be in for a special night. When we arrived at the hotel, we were quickly shown to our room. I couldn't afford a suite. It was only 11 a.m., so we went for a walk to explore the area. We had a splendid view across the bay and could see into the yacht basin. I had always liked boats, so I was interested in the ones tied up and some anchored just outside the basin. There were 2 anchored about 200 yards from shore. One was a sailing yacht that could be handled by one person due to all the new gadgets available. The other was more like a small ship and would require a crew of several people. As we walked, Alex spotted a restaurant on stilts overlooking the bay and suggested it would be fun to eat there sometime. I agreed, and we continued strolling along the waterfront, looking in all the shops selling tourist souvenirs and some upscale boutiques. I was relieved that Alex didn't stop to go into any of the boutiques, as it would have depleted a good portion of our funds. We had lunch at a lovely seafood restaurant and then wandered back to our hotel. Alex wanted to shower and change for the evening meal when we got to our room. When she emerged from the shower, she looked stunning. But when I tried to persuade her to come to bed, she said later, so I showered and changed as well. We dined at the hotel restaurant and then went to the bar where there was a band and a dance floor. The bar was crowded with vacationers, and everyone was enjoying themselves. By the time Alex was ready for bed, it was after 1 a.m. We went up to our room, and Alex changed into a chic nightgown and got into bed. I went into the bathroom to brush my teeth, and when I returned to the room, she was already fast asleep. So I climbed into bed, turned over, and followed suit. So much for my plans for the night. When I woke up in the morning, Alex was already dressed and ready to head down for breakfast. She urged me to hurry up and get dressed. I had hoped for some intimacy that morning, but it wasn't to be, so I quickly showered and dressed, and we went to breakfast. Afterward, we joined a sightseeing tour arranged by a local tourist agency. We had a wonderful day and returned for a buffet lunch, after which Alex mentioned she wanted to sunbathe by the pool. I don't enjoy sitting around, so I went for a walk along the shore towards the yacht basin and watched the boats coming and going. I found this quite relaxing and discovered a little cafe where I sat outside with a cup of coffee. While there, I decided to surprise Alex and booked a table for dinner tonight at the restaurant on stilts. When I returned to the hotel, Alex was no longer by the pool, so I called her cell phone. She answered right away and said she was in our room and had a surprise for me. I hurried back, hoping I might finally get lucky. I opened the door, expecting to see a seductive wife, but instead, she was fully dressed and greeted me with a smile. I tried not to show my disappointment. "Hi, honey. To show how much I appreciate you booking this holiday, I have a little surprise for you," she said. She handed me a small brown envelope, and when I opened it, it contained a ticket for a day of fishing this Friday. I love fishing, but I hadn't planned on it since this trip was supposed to be about reconnecting. I thanked her, lifted her up, and gave her a kiss on the lips, but when I tried for more, she gently pushed me away and said, later, shot down again. "Time for my surprise," I said. I informed her about the dinner reservation at the restaurant on stilts. She responded with enthusiasm, saying that I was definitely going to be lucky tonight. I thought to myself, yeah, right, and decided to let it go. Since the restaurant appeared upscale, we dressed in our finest attire and headed out. Upon arriving at the restaurant, we approached the booking desk and asked for our table. The waiter at the desk contacted the maitre d' who came over. I explained that I had booked a table for 2 earlier in the day under the name Price. He looked through the reservation book and found my booking, but then said, "With regret, sir, your reservation was canceled a short time ago, and we have given your table to someone else." He raised his hands in apology, explaining there was nothing he could do, and expressed his regret. I glanced at Alex, who appeared mortified and wished she could disappear. Just then, a man approached us and inquired about the issue. The maitre d' explained the situation. As he did, I looked around at the other diners. Their attire was far beyond our means, and I could see that we were clearly out of place. I then scrutinized the man speaking to the maitre d' more closely. He was around 40, fit and dressed in a perfectly tailored suit. Observing our discomfort, he said, "It would be a shame for such a lovely couple to be turned away because of this oversight. It would be my pleasure to have you join me at my table." I attempted to decline, but he insisted, saying he disliked dining alone and that our company would be a favor to him. I looked at Alex, who seemed eager to accept, so I thanked him. He instructed the maitre d' to set up 2 additional places. He then pulled out a chair for Alex, and a waiter soon arrived with the menu. He introduced himself as Jules Gauthier, and I introduced Alex and myself. We took our seats, and I realized I had made a mistake when I saw the other patrons' elegant outfits. When I saw the prices on the menu, I nearly got up and left. Jules noticed my reaction and, interpreting my unease correctly, placed his hand on my arm, looked at Alex and whispered, "For your wife, please." Then, in a louder voice, he added, "My treat is a thank you for your company." Alex appeared embarrassed but said nothing, focusing intently on the menu. I felt uneasy about the situation but accepted Jules' generosity, determined not to take advantage, and ordered the least expensive items on the menu. Alex, however, ordered freely without hesitation. When I saw her choices, I realized I had indeed escaped a hefty bill. Her main course alone cost over $100. Throughout the meal, Jules maintained a cheerful demeanor, keeping me engaged in conversation. We discussed various topics, and he showed genuine interest in our jobs and family life. When asked about his occupation, he replied, "Nothing," and then elaborated. He explained that he was a billionaire who spent his time traveling around the world, going wherever he pleased, whenever he wanted. I noticed Alex's eyes glazing over with admiration and heard her sigh in longing. We continued our conversation for the next 3 hours, mostly discussing our life goals. Alex mentioned her desire to travel and see the world, but how the arrival of Sam and Carl had postponed those plans. She cast a pointed glance at me before looking away. Jules, to his credit, pretended not to notice. As the evening came to a close, Jules invited us for breakfast on his yacht, the Lady Jane, followed by a snorkeling trip to a small island. Before I could respond, Alex agreed, and our plans were set. Jules said he would meet us at the quay at 7 a.m. the following morning. We bid him farewell, and he departed for his yacht, while we headed back to our hotel. Once we arrived at the hotel, I suggested having a nightcap and maybe some dancing. Alex, however, said she was too exhausted and just wanted to go to bed, so we went up to our room. As soon as we were inside, Alex began, "I've never been so embarrassed in my life, and you just stood there. If it hadn't been for Jules, we would have been turned away. Don't ever embarrass me like that again. Why can't you be more like Jules? He's assertive and gets what he wants, unlike you, waiting for your boss to retire. Jules is a real go-getter. Now I'm going to bed, and you can forget about any chance of intimacy tonight or for the rest of the week." And without waiting for a response, she showered and got into bed with her back turned to me. I lay there for what felt like hours, reflecting on our situation. This trip was meant to rekindle our relationship, but it had taken a turn for the worse. The more I thought about it, the more I felt our marriage might be coming to an end. I wasn't willing to tolerate her ongoing disrespect and nagging any longer. If things didn't improve by the end of the holiday, we would either be seeking counseling or heading to divorce court. With this decision made, I soon drifted off to sleep. Reception gave us an alarm call at 5:30 a.m., and we arrived at the quay promptly at 7 a.m. Jules was waiting for us and assisted Alex into a small motor launch, and I followed. The launch took us to the larger yacht I had seen earlier. We docked at a small platform with stairs leading up to the deck, where a sailor was waiting to help us down into the well deck. I noticed a table set for 3, and was shown to a chair next to Jules, with Alex seated on the other side. Breakfast was a simple spread of coffee, croissants, biscuits, and butter. Jules recommended a light breakfast since we would be swimming later. After breakfast, we set sail and headed into the ocean. We anchored in a small bay on one of the islands. Jules asked if I had ever scuba dived, and I mentioned it had been a while. He offered to have a crew member accompany me, as it's safer not to dive alone. I was thrilled and asked Alex if she minded. She responded that she didn't care what I did. She planned to sunbathe after her swim. Once again, her tone was dismissive in front of someone we barely knew. Jules, to his credit, pretended not to notice, but a few of the crew members seemed surprised. The crewman and I suited up and entered the water from the diving platform at the stern. I noticed that Alex had gone swimming with Jules without a word of farewell. I enjoyed a delightful half-hour exploring the reef and collected a couple of colorful shells for Alex, thinking they would be a nice reminder of our trip and could be displayed at home. I changed into shorts and a t-shirt and joined Alex and Jules, who were seated at a picnic table on the beach. Alex looked quite pleased, as though she had achieved something, and Jules appeared slightly uncomfortable. I briefly wondered about this, but soon forgot as the crew began serving lunch. Fresh lobster, salad, and a delicious white wine. After lunch we chatted about our swim and my dive. I retrieved the shells from the dinghy and presented them to Alex with a flourish. "I picked these up for you. I thought you might like to take them home." Jules interjected, "Sorry, Rob, but those shells are protected. You'll need to put them back." Alex looked at me with a smirk. "You couldn't even manage that correctly, you're useless." I felt completely defeated and walked away to the far end of the beach, and the journey back was silent, continuing all the way to our room. The next morning, I woke up to find that Alex had already left. There was a note that simply read, "Gone shopping, won't be back until tonight." No signature, no affection, just a cold message. Throughout the rest of the week we barely spoke. Alex was out each day until late afternoon. When I asked where she had been, she simply replied, "Out." I noticed some new clothes with designer labels and asked about their cost. "You didn't pay for them, so it's none of your business." From that conversation I assumed Jules was footing the bill, and a sinking feeling settled in my stomach. On Thursday morning Alex was gone before I woke up. I wondered if she had done something to make me sleep in, as I usually don't stay in bed late. That night she didn't return at her usual time, and my calls went straight to voicemail. I left a message asking her to call me back, but she never did. I stayed up waiting for her, and when she finally came in it was past midnight. "Where have you been? I've been worried about you. If you must know, I spent the day with Jules. We went shopping, had lunch, dinner on his yacht, and then went clubbing. He just dropped me off. By the way, do you like my new dress? Jules bought it for me. It cost over $1,000. At least he knows how to treat a woman. And before you ask, no, I'm not involved with him. I'm tired now, and going to bed. If you want to talk more, I'll see you when you get back from your fishing trip." She then took a shower and went to bed, but not before I made my stance clear. "If you think I'm going to tolerate this, you're very mistaken. When we get home things will change, or we might not be married anymore." "Look, I'm sorry you're upset, but we'll talk when you get back," she replied. The next morning, I was the first to rise and left for my fishing trip. I had a great time enjoying the camaraderie with the other fishermen. When we returned to the dock, I noticed that Jules' yacht had departed and felt a sense of relief. I went up to our room and opened the door. The first thing I saw was that all of Alex's belongings, which were usually on the dresser, were gone. I checked the wardrobe. Her clothes were gone as well. She had left me. I sat on the bed, feeling a mix of sorrow and frustration. She had been difficult for months, but I still loved her. That's when I noticed 2 letters on my pillow. I picked up the one written in Alex's handwriting and opened it. "Dear Rob, it may not come as a surprise, but I've decided to leave. I haven't been happy for a while. Despite your efforts, I need more than you can give me. Jules has brought a refreshing change. He offers everything I've been missing. He's invited me to join him on his yacht to travel the world. Something I've always dreamed of. Although this comes with its own cost, I haven't been unfaithful yet, but that will likely change soon. Jules and I don't love each other. It's a partnership of convenience. After this experience, I plan to return to you and our children, so we can grow old together as we had planned. Please don't hold this against me. I just need to do this. I hope to see you in the future. Love, Alex." I sat there in disbelief. How could she be so naive? thinking she'd be growing old with me after this. I picked up the other letter. Dear Rob, Alex doesn't know I wrote this letter, but I felt it was important to explain. I belong to a group of wealthy businessmen we call the Syndicate. Each year we select a companion to join us and keep our beds warm. When I first saw Alex, I knew she would be a perfect fit for our group. Discontented with her life and her husband, I have been taking wives from their husbands for years. It's quite easy. Every woman has her price. Find what she desires most and give it to her, and she will follow you anywhere and do anything you want. I should mention that Alex has not been unfaithful yet, but she likely will be tonight, or I will drop her off at the next port. You might wonder why I target married women when I could have anyone I want. The thrill of taking another man's wife away is what drives me. I'll keep her for a year or two, and then exchange her with another syndicate member. She should return to you in about 4 years. That's typically how long they last. When she returns, she will be a wealthy woman, thanks to her benefactors who will shower her with expensive gifts. Her final benefactor will provide her with at least $1 million. We don't keep women over the age of 40, as they begin to deteriorate due to overuse. Please don't try to find me. I like you and would hate for you to face any consequences, your friend Jules. I sat there feeling numb, then started shaking and eventually broke down in tears. I had tried to mend our relationship and had been betrayed for my efforts. I cried into my pillow until exhaustion took over and I fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up with a burning anger, no longer feeling sad but fiercely enraged. I called the airline and changed my return flight to one later that day. I packed my suitcase, checked out of the hotel, and arrived at the airport early. I grabbed a quick lunch, but it tasted like cardboard. What would I tell the children? How their mother had left them for a new life with another man. My mind was so tangled with confusion that I could barely think straight. Upon landing, I collected my car from long-term parking and drove home. I stopped to buy some milk and a microwave dinner, as I had been too upset to eat properly on the flight. When I pulled up outside the house and saw Alex's car, a surge of anger hit me. I went inside, unpacked, and prepared my meal. Sitting down with a glass of wine, I looked around at our home. Our wedding photo on the mantel seemed like a cruel reminder of better times. I tried to recall the happy moments we had shared, but couldn't think of any. It struck me that all the good times had been overshadowed by the misery of the past year. As I sipped my drink, I thought about what I had decided to do if she didn't change her attitude. I was going to divorce her. I started laughing and couldn't stop. She had done it for me. If I had divorced her, she would have got half of everything plus the house and kids. I would have had to pay her maintenance. I was lucky it was all mine now, and all I would have to do is make arrangements for the kids. I went to bed feeling much better, but I would still like to have some revenge on Jules. Oh well, say Chuil Sarah. In the morning, it being Sunday, there was little I could do, apart from canceling her credit card and shifting our savings and joint account to my checking account. If she needed money, there was her private account, or she could ask her boyfriend. I waited at home until I knew that the kids would be in bed, then drove over to my in-laws. On the way over, I dreaded what I was going to have to tell them. Mike and Linda were like parents to me, and they always said I was the son they never had. I stopped outside their house and went straight up to the door and rang the bell. Mike opened the door. Rob, we didn't expect to see you until next week. Is something wrong? Where's Alex? All said, as he let me in whilst looking for Alex outside. Linda came into the lounge. Where's Alex? Rob, is she all right? Seeing their concerned faces was the last straw, and I broke down crying, not for my lost wife, but for their lost daughter, as the whole episode split out of me. Linda sat beside me and pulled me in close while Mike stood behind me, with his hand on my shoulder squeezing gently. After I got control of myself, I showed them the letters. When they finished reading them, Linda sat crying, and Mike paced the room looking as angry as I had ever seen him. Finally he spoke. "Rob, I'm sorry for the way Alex treated you, and you know, we have always thought of you as our son. From now on we have no daughter, we have lost her, but we will always have a son." He took me in his arms and held me tightly. Linda came and hugged us both and said, "Rob, I agree with Mike, you are now our only child. You and our grandchildren are all that's left of our family. Please don't be a stranger. You're welcome here anytime and for as long as you want." After we parted, Mike made coffee, and we sat and discussed how to tell the children the next day. When the kids came down for breakfast in the morning and saw me sitting drinking coffee, they ran into my arms. It was all I could do not to start crying again. Sam looked around and then at me. "Dad, where's Mom? Come and sit down, I have something to tell you both." I sat on one side of the kitchen table and Mike and Linda sat on the other with the kids on their lap. "This is going to be very hard for you to hear, but first, I want you to know we all, including your mother, love you both very much." I wasn't sure about their mother, but what else could I say? You know, Mom always wanted to travel and see the world well. She met a friend while we were on vacation, and he offered her the chance to do just that. So your mom went with him and back for some time. Don't worry, Gramps, and Grandma will help to look after you and get you to school and pick you up. I will try and change my hours at work to spend more time with you so things won't change much. I stopped to gauge their reaction and was shocked by my daughter's reply. "So Dad, what you're saying is she's dumped us and gone off with another man. Is that about it?" "Well, one thing will change. We won't have to walk on eggshells when she's around anymore, so we won't miss that." Never underestimate the perception of a 10-year-old. We all sat there looking at Sam in a totally different light as she had just aged 8 years. "Well, are we going to get any breakfast or not? Some of us have got to get to school, you know." I looked at Carl, who didn't seem to know what was happening, but he took his cue from Sam and seemed happy to follow her lead. While Linda made breakfast and made sure the kids had all their school things ready, Mike came over to me. "Well, that went better than I expected. Was she really that hard to live with?" "For me, yeah. But I didn't know it had affected the kids so badly. Still, things could have gone worse." Mike said he would take the kids to school and pick them up later so that I could go to work and take care of things. When I got to work, I went to see my boss, but Sarah said he wasn't in, and would I go to see Mr. Jampson, our CO? When I got to his office, his PAs sent me straight in. "Rob didn't think you were back until next week. Why are you home early?" "Well, Mr. Jampson, stop right there. When we're alone it's Phil, and you were saying—" I filled him in on the situation. He said how sorry he was, but there was a bright side. While I was away, my boss had a minor heart attack and won't be back to work for some time, and I was to take on his responsibilities until further notice. This meant that I would no longer have to go away to sort out any problems with our customers. I would also be paid at the same rate as my boss until his return. He also told me to take the rest of the week off to sort out my finances. This was wonderful news. I would be able to spend more time with the kids and make my hours more flexible. Next, I went to HR and had Alex taken off of my insurance and made my children the beneficiaries and next of kin. I then made an appointment with my attorney for the next day. My attorney was an old friend from college, James Slack, who specialized in family law. He also took care of my day-to-day legal needs. He welcomed me in and offered me coffee. As we sat to drink our coffee, he opened the meeting. "Okay, Rob, I take it this isn't a social meeting, so what's on your mind?" I explained what had happened and gave him the letters. "Okay, let me get this straight. You took Alex on a reconnection holiday, and she dumped you for a billionaire and just took off. Is that about right?" I said it was. "I take it you want a divorce?" sooner the better. Sorry, Rob, no can do. The best I can do is file for an immediate legal separation. That way, you are no longer responsible for her debts. If she returns within a year, you can have her served, otherwise you have to wait a year and divorce her for abandonment. I take it you want sole custody of the children? Absolutely, there is no way she's getting the kids. I said this with some venom. Hey, take it easy, Tiger, this shouldn't be a problem. Her letter to you proved she had no interest in their welfare. I'll file that as well. By the end of the week you will have severed all ties with her. How are her folks taking it? They've disowned her and adopted me, I said with a little chuckle. Rob, you seem to be taking this rather well. Are you sure you want to move this quickly? James, to be honest with you, the divorce has been coming for the last year. The vacation was my last-ditch attempt to salvage my marriage, and we know how that turned out. Okay, if you are sure, I'll file as soon as the papers are ready. I'll put a notice in the local and a couple of national papers that you are no longer responsible for her debts. If you see Joy, receptionist and notary, on the way out, she will give you a list of the financial things you need to take care of. Please give my regards to Helen, James's wife, and hug the kids for me. Oh God, I didn't think of Helen. You do realize you'll be expected to come to dinner every she finds a match for you, don't you? I chuckled. Tell her I'm not ready yet. Give it the year until I'm divorced, then she can set me up all she wants provided she cooks dinner. She really is the best cook I know. When I got home, I looked at the list Joy had given me, and I had already ticked all the boxes but one. I called the finance company from which Alex had borrowed the money to buy her car, and told them they might as well repossess it now as later because there was no money to pay the installments, and I told them to contact my attorney for more information. I looked at the clock and realized Mike would be bringing the children home from school soon. Where had the day gone? Mike brought the kids home half an hour later and left. I still hadn't got any groceries in, so I took them to McDonald's and warned them it wouldn't be a regular thing. When we returned home, we watched a DVD together, Frozen, what else, and they got ready for bed. I tucked them in with a kiss. Oh, Dad, from Carl, and love you from Sam. I went down and got a drink from the fridge, put on some music, soft jazz, and sat sipping my drink. It suddenly occurred to me I was far more content sitting here than I had been for a long time. I actually toasted Jules for taking Alex away. What a great way to get rid of a grumpy spouse. Alex, the trouble really started when Rob booked us a table at the restaurant on stilts. When we were nearly turned away, I was embarrassed beyond belief and mad as hell. Then Jules came to our rescue. He was everything Rob wasn't: sophisticated, suave, and so rich. I was drawn to him immediately, and wished he was mine instead of my socially inept husband. When we went on to his yacht, I was literally drooling, and when Rob went diving, and I had Jules to myself, I made my move. I put on the skimpiest two-piece swimsuit that I had bought to wear for Rob. I thought I would seduce Jules, but all of my wiles seemed wasted as Jules never took the bait. I had just about given up when he suggested we have lunch on the beach. The crew set up lunch complete with table and chairs. Just as we were being served, Rob came and joined us. When he showed me the shells he had brought back for me, acting like a conquering hero, and Jules shot him down, I'd had enough and tore him a new one. He wandered off down the beach in a sulk, and that's when Jules made his move. Alex, I can't help noticing you and Rob are having troubles in your marriage. Am I correct in thinking it's about money? It's not only about money, it's his attitude. He has no ambition, and is content to sit at his desk and wait for a promotion that will probably come. We were going to travel and see the world, but I got pregnant, and it all evaporated. I hate my life. It's so dull. I go to work and come home to 2 fighting kids and a dull husband. There's no excitement, just one boring day after another. I'm sorry you don't want to hear about my troubles. How long are you staying in Miami? Please don't worry about telling me your troubles. In fact, I may have a solution. Do tell.